And we are live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another OSR Tabletop live stream with myself, DM Bluddworth. And as you can see, there's been a little modifications on StreamYard. So they added a new like a headline kind of banner that you can drop below your name, which is kind of weird, but and I wasn't able to put my full name into the into where you see Bluddworth now, so I couldn't even put that inside quotations. But I was able to put Unscripted and Unchained RPG review down at the bottom, just as a reminder of that is who that is the YouTube channel that these videos, these live streams are directly ported over to, as well as Twitter and Facebook. So so you can watch these live streams live on on any of those three platforms, and I welcome those that that do so. I see I already have a couple of people watching, and so that's awesome. And I'm just waiting for it to fire up on my iPad so that I can also follow along with the chats that are coming in, because sometimes they're not one for one, and so I wanted to do that. So I'm hoping to do this on a regular basis. So basically do like a weekly recap of my week's gaming content, whether it be my Tuesday night AD&D first edition campaign recap, or just the things going on with either the channel or just in the hobby in general. And what a week this has been in the hobby in general. So so I will start off with a little bit of a timeline of events as I experienced them. So it might not have been exactly when videos dropped and responses began, but this is when I became aware of some of these things. So I was going to bring that up because that's, other than my own gaming news, that was the biggest news that came out this past week involving the hobby. So sometime on Sunday or early Monday morning, I started working on my video, basically saying "Watsy be gone," Wizards of the Coast be gone. And I got to the point where I really don't see Wizards of the Coast as being a non-toxic entity within the tabletop role-playing hobby. I think that the direction that they're going in and the way that they're going about it has been detrimental to the hobby, let alone detrimental to their own standing within the hobby. And that's something that I was thinking about, and I was like, I know that there were some commentators out there who took the D&D be gone as saying we want to get rid of Dungeons and Dragons, and that is not what anyone had been calling for. And at this stage of the game, it's just so inaccurate and just so tone deaf to what really spurred on the OGL debacle, completely self-inflicted by Wizards of the Coast. What really drove that call was the fact that D&D Beyond is going to be the front door, as we just learned from another interview yesterday, for all of this pushing towards digital. And so and so when D&D Be Gone was utilized, it was utilized to say a play on words. Again, and if you couldn't pick that up, then that's really on you, because it wasn't meant in any other way. Never purported to be any other thing other than for people to end their subscriptions, their paid subscriptions with D&D Beyond. So I started adopting, since I don't want to play into that kind of hysteria. I started saying, no, it's Wizards of the Coast that needs to be gone. And whether that means that Wizards of the Coast is spun off, like one of their major shareholders of Hasbro has been looking to do. I believe that's Altafox Group or something like that. They own about 2.5% of Hasbro, which, when you think about it, doesn't sound like it's a whole lot. I mean, wow, they only own 2.5%, but it makes them a major shareholder and opens them up for having seats at the executive board table. And they were proposing having, as many as 5 of their group sit on the board of both Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast or whatever. And those individuals, at least they touted, were people who actually played the game, actually had some familiarity with the tabletop role-playing hobby. And so it would have been nice to have at least seen 1 or 2 of them get on there, because maybe Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro would have avoided some of this. But but they didn't. And so now at this point, maybe with all of the downfall of the of the respect for Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro in general, as far as they play a role in the tabletop hobby, since that has been so dramatically depleted, maybe that will be a move in that direction. Let me get caught up with some of these things. So, hey, Squirrel Hermit, how's it going? Watsy be gone. Dented Helmet, good morning. So Watsy is completely irrelevant. They cannot be trusted, and the people who left are not going back. Yeah, and I want to talk about the people who left, because this was another just mischaracterization of the group that left. The primary group that left that mattered for Wizards of the Coast were current 5e players. And I've said this repeatedly over and over the last 4 or 5 videos that I've done on this topic, is that it's my belief that what Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro were looking to do was to leave a barren wasteland in their wake, to kill all 5e content. Because remember, they don't produce that much 5e content on their own. And they felt that if we leave a barren wasteland behind us where there's no 5e content available for the player base of 5e, they will move to 6e. And those that choose to move away, well, let them. That's not a huge number. I've argued, for some time now, Wizards of the Coast is playing a numbers game, and they believe that really they only need about 10% of the current player base of 5e to actually pay $30 a month for full access to their virtual tabletop that they're looking to create. And they will be ahead of the game compared to what their book sales actually generates. And they've been talking about this and whining about, the fact that the nature of this hobby is that you can buy core rule books and play for decades. And Cynthia Williams and Rollins and the other people that came in from Microsoft, they don't have that mindset. They don't understand that concept. They see it as a detriment to their being able to monetize the D&D brand. And so I don't want to go rehash everything again, but they will go back and forth with this, and we know where it's left off beginning with this week. So let me get back to some of these again. Yes, those that saw D&D be gone literally just didn't understand the nuance in which that was being expressed in. So MTG card game is crashed hard and has been that cash grab debacle as well. Yes, and they've been having a longer problem with Magic the Gathering. If you go back several years ago, and the big question of the quality of the card stock, and then they had their whole debacle, or really just the devastating occurrences of the Magic the Gathering judges being somewhat questionable, and not very vetted for crimes against children and that kind of thing. So that really did not go over well, and that was all timed around the same thing. If you looked at the quarterings coverage of that, and we're probably going back like 4 years, it was a mess. All right, it was an absolute mess. And even those that didn't go into the judges issue with Magic the Gathering, there were others that also just focused on the cardstock quality and how the cards would literally warp right in front of your eyes as soon as you took them out of the package. So they've had a long problem with quality control of their products, their physical products. There was also a thing about 5 ebooks falling apart. Meanwhile, some of us have our AD&D first edition books that are still holding up quite well after 40 years. So it's it really is an issue that Wizards of the Coast has been having now for quite a number of years. Let's see, a reactionary principle gaming with Mr. Max Bovin. Hello, Mr. Max Bovin. Hello. Glad to have you here. Let's see, Ironcaster, Cynthia Williams comes from tobacco industry. That should be enough of a red flag for many. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that they came in, and I wouldn't have minded if they came in and they said, listen, we don't believe that we're monetizing our brand enough, and this is where we're looking to take the game. We're looking to take the game into a digital video realm where there will be a subscription plus microtransaction hybrid model that you often see in the MMORPG industry. If they came straight out and said that, they wouldn't have had any of this problem. What they tried to do was they tried to hide the fact that that is where they're looking to go. They certainly didn't come out and say, listen, whatever physical product that we're going to produce for the tabletop role-playing game, it is not going to be very backwards compatible, and it's going to be a new edition. But they just kept on lying about this and trying to cover it up. It's like the Samsung option of RPG. I always call it the McDonald's hamburger of RPGs. Super chat. Hey, thank you, Squirrel. So keep up the good work. Really appreciate your show. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for your frequent comments and, coming on in and always chiming in and leaving comments and, directing me to look at other things as well. And I follow your channel as well. And there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. And you're always welcome to come on the channel if you wish. I'm going to try to keep these Friday ones a little bit short, but I will open it up for anybody that wants to join in just a little bit. Let me get caught up with my comments first. So let's see. MTG also banned a bunch of cards for political reason. An artist as well. I mean, they removed this female artist who was probably one of their best artists at the time, just because I guess she wasn't following the woke that they were looking for. Shadow and Sun, hey, how's it going? Good to see you again, and we'll be up again for Tuesday night's game. So Shadow and Sun, Shadow plays in my AD&D First Edition campaign. We just wrapped up session 78, so 78 weeks of AD&D First Edition. And I mean, that goes to show you, I'm certainly not one that is saying D&D be gone. But I will say WotC be gone, and you'll probably notice on my future closed screens and everything on my channel that you will no longer see third, fourth, or fifth edition on my shelf. I'm packing them up, and I'm going to either relegate them to my basement for the next couple of decades, since they think that we're all basement dwellers. So maybe their books should dwell in the basement for quite some time. Or I may give, maybe I'll give my niece the third edition so that she can see what Dungeons and Dragons was like before WotC went woke. All right. Hey, Cal, how's it going? Marcelo, greetings. Sepulveda. I work with someone with that last name, and it just does not roll off my tongue very well. So I apologize if I mispronounced it. McDonald's hamburgers is the best description. It really is, because everybody, or virtually everybody, has heard of McDonald's, has even eaten McDonald's. But if they're given the choice between eating that hamburger and eating virtually any other hamburger on the market or homemade or whatever, they will never choose the McDonald's hamburger. All right. It is truly the lowest quality burger that you can get. The only reason why you buy it is because it is easily accessible and it is fairly cheap. It's no longer even that cheap anymore. And it's fairly cheap. But the easy accessibility and the brand recognition is what really pushes it out there. And that's D&D 5th edition to a T. All right. Brand recognition, easily picked up. And the quality is just not there. You would play virtually any other game rather than it if given the opportunity. Okay. All right. So the Samsung, yes, they are practicing I believe they are practicing a scorched earth policy. They wanted to leave the barren wasteland behind them, and and leave those 5e players. It really was directed at the 5e players. They knew that changing these things were not going to impact many independent creators, because they have been using either Creative Commons or they could very easily cleanse the OGL 1.0A and the SRD out of their product. I'm talking specifically like Castles and Crusades, whose systems weren't dependent on the 5e system, but or the D&D system, I should say. So it was really directed at the 5e group, and it was the 5e group that, every one of those D&D Beyond subscribers was a 5e player, because D&D Beyond only supports 5e. So those 30 or 40,000 unsubs, every one of them was part of their player base. And so that's why it had the impact that it had. Okay, I'm glad, Marcelo. Hail to chat. Let's see. Homemade burgers tonight. In fact, Just like my games, homebrew all the way. Absolutely. Crap Donalds. All right, we'll get through all of these. Let's see. Fans from different sides were briefly united over the OGL. Interesting time for Wizards to reintroduce divisive racial politics to divide once again. Yes, and that was, I was going through that, Don. I was going through that. So I made that first video where I was talking about WotC Be Gone. Then I saw the three black halflings video. Watched it several times and keyed in on that one passage there. And this is not revisionism. He was basically saying, the old white guys need to get out of the hobby. They can't get out of the hobby soon enough. And he spoke the hobby. He didn't say D&D. He didn't say WotC's D&D. He said the hobby, as if Wizards of the Coast speaks for the entire hobby. And I am so glad that once we see the fourth quarter returns on Hasbro, that we will likely see that they are no longer at the 51% of the market share, that they have declined even further after the sales that virtually every single other publisher has been having this past month. I can't imagine that they're going to cling on to that 51% of the market share. I guarantee you they're below that at this point. I welcome it. I think that the hobby will be healthier for Wizards of the Coast being taken down these notches, and it's multiple notches that they've been taken down, and it's all self-inflicted. So it's even better, it's even sweeter that is the case. Hey, Cal, congratulations. All right, so Cal is now a married man. Well, you mean to tell me that you're not a basement dweller, white male that is unmarried and has no children? You're an incel and all of these things that it appears that Wizards of the Coast believes that a majority of us are. So so welcome to disproving their stereotype. Hey, Webhead Mike, good to see you again as well. And let's see, she is a lucky lady. I don't know. My Cal will probably say he's the lucky one. That's usually the safe thing to say. Let's see. Exactly, splitting the fans with divisive issues. Yes. Yeah, I mean, the timing of it was so ridiculous. I mean, it's like you just came out of probably the toughest week, and you're going to begin with a Monday morning or Monday evening video, and further split up your already dwindling player base, or your support, I should say. It was just stupid. It really was stupid. People like Brink need to leave the hobby as quickly as possible. Yeah, I mean, if he had any integrity, he would say, and therefore I am stepping down and leaving way for, that. But they never do that. They, people who call for raising taxes never talk about raising their own taxes. People who talk about, talk about giving up jobs, leaving jobs open for others. They never talk about themselves. They never do that. It's hypocrisy at its design. It's designed to be hypocritical. I just finished my first after like 40 plus years. I may have to do some more touch up, and unfortunately, I couldn't get the, I believe it was Shadow and Son was telling me that I can link my my iPad directly to the computer and be able to zoom in on on it much easier and actually paint using that as a visual. So it'll give me much more. But I have to get like 3 different adapters and kind of like keep on piggybacking them off of each other before I can even get it to work on my on my iPad. So I don't know. I have to try to figure that out. I've escaped the demographic. And your wife is from Zambia too. So yeah, you certainly have. They won't understand you now. You don't fit the mold. That was the other thing, that the crazy thing about that comment that Kyle Brinks made was that he was like, "We know that this hasn't been true," and yet then he finishes that off with saying, "But the white males have to leave the hobby anyway." So it's like, so we know we were wrong to believe in this stereotype, but we're going to punish those that we stereotyped by telling them they need to leave. And that is the height of the hypocrisy that that was there. So big wigs at WotC spouting racist beliefs, yet they want to be the ones who decide that it's offensive and not what what's offensive or what is hate filled or harmful. That's always a great one. And they clearly show that when they talk about diversity, the diversity doesn't apply to white males. I mean, they're not part of a diverse group in their mind. Yes, thank you. I'm really enjoying it, Squirrel. Really enjoying it. And like I said, my last video, I didn't quite get the. I only got one image up there. I didn't realize that it wouldn't just keep on following along like screen share. I thought it would share whatever the screen was. I forgot that on split screen, I have to go back and forth, or XSplit, I should say. I have to go back and forth between showing each of those images. I might try to do a direct video from my iPad of just the figure, and then I can zoom in and show it like that, and then post that up there and put that as part of that series. How it started, gatekeeping is wrong. How is it going? Let's gatekeep white men. Yeah, it's basically that. They don't have a problem with gatekeeping. They just want to make sure it hits the majority of their player base, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yes, until I have a feeling eventually I'll hit a ceiling. But yeah, hopefully it does get better. Yes, and you know what? I spent last night making a character for Gangbusters. So Kelly Foote, one of my players, a former TSR employee from 1982 to 1986, who did a lot for Gangbusters and Oriental Adventures and other things, mostly creating, I believe, convention games to be run, adventures to be run, I should say, and. So he's just started this up last night. We had our session 0. We created our law enforcement characters, and then in the next session or over the next couple of days, we're going to make our criminals as well, and we'll do this campaign back and forth. So that is now a Thursday morning game for myself, and so I'll have my Tuesday night game, my Thursday morning game. And it'll be nice to just go back to playing and not always being the forever dungeon master or game master. Same hypocrites decry the Oriental Ventures book, but they still selling it for profits on drive-through. Yes, and they, you know, I would suspect that that is going to end, at some point. I would suspect that Wizards of the Coast might actually pull all of the legacy products, stop selling them. Um, I don't support buying from there anyway, because you're giving Wizards of the Coast money for an item, for a product that they label with a disclaimer as being, bigoted and prejudiced and sexist and misogynistic and problematic and everything. Yet they'll take your money for that product that they have no respect for. And I'm glad that I was able to buy um, a majority, like 90+% of the TSR product line um, at a fairly decent price over these last couple of years. With the only exception is the OD&D white box behind me that I paid, and I still got that fairly cheap. I got that and everything along with it. Its supplements and everything for about $800. So glad to have gotten that. And now I have everything that is TSR D&D. Like I said, I'm moving my Wizards of the Coast D&D off to either the basement for a couple of decades, or perhaps I will hand it over to my niece. But probably just the third edition. I really would rather have her delve into the earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons without all the wokeness that came with 5e, and not even right away, but later on with 5e. Yeah. Yes, I will definitely come to you for tips. I have the BX rework for Gangbusters. Yes, so do I. And that's an awesome game, and I believe Mark Hunt has updated that, make kind of like an advanced version of it. I was just waiting for it to clear on drive-through, and I'm definitely picking that up. Yeah, we're gonna bounce back to that, Shadow. Yeah, we will get back to the Vigilante City. So now that I know that I have that other game going on Thursdays, um, we'll see. We'll see if we can get more people involved with that as well. It would be nice, because Tuesday sometimes I kind of suspected it would happen too. Tuesdays happens to be like the days for like animal hospitals, dentists visits, and those kinds of things. Lifetime sometimes gets in the way. Um, that was my Tuesday morning. Actually, was going to the animal hospital. Yeah, you can still grab them off of eBay. Um, you can still get them off of eBay for like 30, $40. Um, so I would definitely do that. And if you were buying a hardcover from Wizards of the Coast, you'd be paying 30 or $40 for it now anyway. So you're getting a real copy of the book that doesn't have the added baggage of giving money to Wizards of the Coast. They want 35 for the POD copy of the Shadow Elves Gazetteer, when the rest are like 20. Yeah. Yeah, try to find them. You won't pay that much for gazetteers on eBay. Or if you do, like I just finished saying, you're at least not giving money to a company that hates you. The kids on the woke side think you can gatekeep a hobby. Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing, Cal, is that there's at least one other commentator out there who's like, oh, they're telling us we can't buy, play, read, you know, fifth edition. No one can prevent you from buying a book, putting together your own group, and playing the game. That's the realization that that Hasbro really came to when they're like, well, we're under monetized, because they realized that in this hobby, you can buy a book and literally run it for decades and never have to buy from them again. And they can't stand the idea of it. I mean, I literally just opened this up yesterday, right? So this is first printing in immaculate condition. I probably paid like $30-40 for the entire box set, and first printing March 1982. All right, so I could be playing this for the next 20 or 30 years. Survival possible, and never have to buy anything for this game system again. And that's what they hate about it. They want the recurring, and this is their words, a recurring revenue stream coming in for the D&D product line. Okay, let me get caught up here. Let's see, I have almost 3 original books. I'd always been binding issues, so nice copy, couldn't hurt. Right. If you like Castles and Crusades, look at the Amazing Adventure product. Tons of ideas you can port into CNC. Yes, I have both. I just picked up Amazing Adventures. I haven't started breaking that down yet, and doing videos on it, but I will eventually get around to it. We've all been kind of busy these last 3-4 weeks with other stuff going on. My daughter is home, making her drink a smoothie. Yeah, evidence that I do also have a wife and children, so I'm not a basement dweller. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to go incognito to buy any books in the local game store. That's just a total. I'll take things that never happened for 500, Alex, kind of thing. You know what? That might even be possible, because that might be possible. And the reason why is that you can't find Gangbusters on Drive-Thru RPG other than what Mark Hunt puts out. And I believe Mark Hunt might actually have the license to make it under the way that he's doing it. So, but yes, that might be very possible. Because I was trying to figure out how to get the 3rd edition, because that's what Kelly Foote is looking to do, but he said that any of these other editions, there was no 2nd edition. It went from 1st to 3rd. I don't know why. And, so yeah, but that might certainly be possible, Marcelo, that there's no, Wizards of the Coast doesn't own Gangbusters. I wish that they didn't own a lot of those things, because we might actually see them. Yeah, they probably took that down because Daniel Kwan, a non-Asian Canadian, came out and said that you can't have it. Good to see you, Shadow, take it easy. All right, so let's see. And I remember watching the interview in Tenkar's Tavern. Yeah, the more recent one. I didn't see the more recent one that he did with what's that guy's name? Tail Amadea or something like that. He likes going to small channels. Brinks likes to go to small channels. Hey, he's welcome to come on my channel. I wouldn't tear him to shreds. I would treat him respectfully. I would ask him for clarifications. I would certainly push back on those ideas, and I would ask him why did you acknowledge that there was a stereotype of the hobby being predominantly white males in their basements? I mean, that was literally his words. And then turn around and say, and therefore we need to get rid of the white men in the hobby. It just didn't make any sense to say, we acknowledge that we've been prejudicial and exercising in harmful stereotypes, and which that stereotype alone has harmed the hobby more than any of the other nonsense that they think that they were looking to change the OGL to protect the hobby from. The market will protect the hobby from those outliers that are truly, just terrible products out there. You know, Fatal. I saw someone's comment recently. We know this is true because Fatal did not sell well, right? And you can't. It's very, very hard to even find it anywhere. Even on the internet, it's hard to find it as a PDF anywhere. So, the market will take care of that kind of thing. The hobby itself will take care of that kind of thing. They will push out or, just not run and play those games. And so it will, they'll fade on their own. So it's just hypocrisy again. I ran a 9th group session of last weekend and it went great. The last member of my group was on the fence about CNC and now on board with it. Yeah. And I noticed that not a lot of commentators out there that were, hey, we're not covering 5e as much anymore. We're going to cover these other things. They're not really pushing Castles and Crusades. They're pushing they're pushing Pathfinder 2 and second edition and some other other game publishers, and it's more so I think a political thing that they leave Castles and Crusades out of the conversation, because Castles and Crusades, Troll Lord Games has come out and said, we're just about producing good games and playing, and that's not the message that some of these other publishers really care about. So if you're jumping ship from Wizards of the Coast to go to some other publishers, it doesn't make that much sense to go from one really woke to another really woke, because eventually you'll come down the same issues of hypocrisy like Wizards of the Coast has been demonstrating. One of the other channels I have watched has invited him, Heath's Geekiverse. Let's see. Now Brink is getting questions for interviews ahead of time. Bosses are afraid he will step on his crack again. Yeah. He stepped on his dick. They, he, him will step on the appendage again. Yes. The week before, Watsy's didn't did their thing. The mob hated troll lords for wanting to remain apolitical. Yes, that's what it is. Like I said, they came out and they said, hey, we're just about making good games and playing. Just get to the table and roll the dice, and that's something that they can't stand. So if you don't have a political agenda, then number one, apolitical, they call a political agenda, which is stupid, and number two, you're just gonna end up attaching yourself to another game company that is eventually going to fall into that same hypocritical trap. And diversity will not mean complete diversity. It'll mean, well, we only want diversity of the groups that agree with us. And so that's the issue. Now, many are pushing for org to have a morality clause, and it started right from the get-go. If it wasn't pushed back right in its inception, within those first 2 days, they would have came out with this morality clause, and they saw, oh, wait a second, we can't kill our thing off before it's even taken its first breath, and so now they've backed off from that idea, but they will return because it is hardwired into their mentality to push this. Yes, I do. Actually, that's the thing you can see. That's what I used. The Reaper to learn. How to learn how to paint kit. So and yeah, Ralph Partha. I mean, back in the day, you had all these third-party creators for the miniatures, right? So we had Grenadier and Ralpartha, and later on, I think Citadel came a little bit later on, and those were the figures I just remember from back in the late 70s and early 80s and such, and so those were the first figures that I painted. I painted a Lizard Man warrior from like one of those really early box sets, and I don't know if it was Ralpartha or Grenadier. Might have been Grenadier. And then I painted a black dragon that was, again, either Ralpartha or Grenadier, and those were the last two that I painted. So probably like 1980-ish was the last time I painted figures, until really just these last couple of weeks. Yeah, or even if it's not a solo RPG, and welcome as always. Even if it's not just one company, it's actually better off if a whole bunch of companies, as long as they don't have 50%, and Wizards of the Coast doesn't have 50% of the market share. As long as they're below 50% of the market share, I'm fine with that. The more that they're diminished from it, the better off I think the hobby as a whole will be. So that's something that I think we can all look forward to, is that if Wizards of the Coast is successful in moving their game completely digital and vacating the tabletop hobby altogether, because they don't believe that it's supports their market goals, then that's great. That leaves more room for everybody else. Now I have heard some videos and some comments. I've read some comments where they may move the OGL 3.5 over to Creative Commons, and that really does open up the floodgates for for the OSR in many cases, and there's others like 1.0 is another OGL that different than 1.0A, but 1.0, which was the earliest one, opens up a lot as well. That will open up being able to write directly for AD&D First Edition, OD&D, and those as well. My understanding of it, I could be wrong, but from what I understand is that the just putting the just putting 5.1 SRD into common Creative Commons only leaves room for 5e and nothing else. I just picked this up. Chenault has a new Kickstarter. I'll have to double check that. Is that for Castles and Crusades, or I'll definitely look. I'll definitely look. I know I passed up on the Kickstarter that he did for the Chinese the Codex, and I'll wait till he comes out with a few others, and then I'll buy them as a bundle again. Oh, it's for Aired. I already have the Codex for Aired, so I don't think I need more. Never seen such a fuck up on how a multi-million-dollar company allows this. Nope, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's like they should never have anyone talking to the public that has more than just that as their role. I mean, this is why presidents have press secretaries, right? They only have, one person whose specialty is talking to the masses, and how they go in there and think that they're going to be able to sell that blatantly racist attitude towards the majority of your player base. Despite all of the growth of the hobby into different demographics and such, the hobby is still somewhere between 50 and 60%, white males. And for Dungeons and Dragons, that's predominantly American white males. It's not, fifth edition is most popular here in the United States. You go to Europe and you go to Asia in particular, and it's not even on the radar as far as some places are concerned. Like Japan, it's so far behind Call of Cthulhu that it's not even a contender in Dungeons and Dragons as a whole. Is not even a contender in Japan, and so we know how how inclusive, I'm being facetious here, how inclusive China's market is, so 90% of what they're looking to do at Wizards of the Coast will never sell in China, and that's obviously the largest market in the world. Yes, that's the name of the new one. I still have some things that they have that I want to get before I look at any of their new stuff. Money no matter what. Then they straight up say they're racist. Yeah, we want money no matter what, but not from the 60% of the people that are playing the game. All the new stuff will be in the store, Ralph Partha. Right. Yeah, I'll have to double check and see. I want to check out eBay and see if I can get those original figures. Once again, just as nostalgia. All right, so let's see. This was also supposed to be a discussion about what I did for this week. So Tuesday night's game was AD&D First Edition, and I have my players going through. I'm not going to reveal the adventure that they're going through. So but when I run an adventure that's from a module that's been written already, I don't I so homebrew it that it's virtually, I'm using its maps and some of its encounters, but really twisting it to the campaign that we've been running. So that was session 78. So 78 weeks, and their main encounter during that was they fought two 12th level druids who were controlling two air elementals, and it was a pretty cool combat. It was, a lot of spells, obviously, and they had to they had to think out of the box. They had to do a couple things to avoid some of the spell effects and such as um, burrowing under the ground to avoid a wall of black flame spell that basically separated the entire cavernous space that they were in from floor to ceiling and from wall to wall. So that was one thing. The rest of the party were just forced to go through it and deal with the damage over time that they were going to keep on getting inflicted with unless a dispel magic was cast on them, and which they never travel with. They really should keep at least one dispel magic in the bag. I'm waiting for the party to realize that they kind of need that, but we'll see. We'll see if that if they come around to that realization that it's a good idea to do that. Then they actually charmed one of the druids. I'm waiting to see if they just kill him off. I think a bulk of the party is looking, oh, we'll just kill him, because the last time we charmed somebody and they eventually came out of it without us realizing it, and caused us all kinds of problems thereafter. So we'll see. We'll see if they off this guy. And then, like I said, Thursday night, last night, I created my character for Gangbusters, and I'm planning on shifting now my shorts, my video shorts. Going to still keep on covering Robert E. Howard books in my collection, but I'm looking to see what else I can do with shorts, and then see what really sparks your interest. So if anybody has any ideas for shorts like you would want me to cover in like a 1-minute video, please leave that in the comments section so I'll know to, hey, let me do some of those. The other thing I'm going to delve into, and I just bought 2 more products from the Robert J. Kuhn's website. All right, so yeah, Robert Kuhn's died recently, within like the last 6 months or maybe even longer. But his website's still up and you can still get products. And the one thing that I did buy was the Dave Arneson, A True Genius. And I'm going to start reading through this, and I want to, I will do a video breaking down what this is, because, there are some individuals out there that think that Gary Gygax created the whole concept of role-playing games, and it was actually Dave Arneson. And so I wanted to get much more versed into the contributions to this hobby that Dave Arneson actually did without, even though he didn't put the money up for Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeons and Dragons wouldn't have happened. The tabletop role-playing games might not have actually happened if it weren't for this man. Gary Gygax might have still been playing, just wargaming till the day that he died, rather than doing as much as he had done with Dungeons and Dragons, really beginning mostly with AD&D. That's correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's a just let everybody play. And someone even said that. Someone said that on the three black halflings comment section, and they said, can't we just play games? And someone came out and said, that's like saying all lives matters. You can't you can't get around the stupidity, of those that look like those kinds of things. I don't think Kuhn's had an axe to grind against Gygax. I mean, I haven't started reading the book, but I doubt it. I mean, Dave Arneson certainly did, at some point. Yes, yeah, Kuhn's passed away. Now I got to look it up. I will look it up. No, I see. There's an obituary here. Mm-hmm. If someone, not to my knowledge, no, let me look. I just saw. Well, maybe not. I could have sworn. Could be a different Robert J. Coons. If I'm mistaken, sorry to have knocked you off. But yeah. So anyway, regardless of that, see, I really thought it wouldn't be on this book here. This book was printed a while ago. I will double check and see. I did see, and maybe I'm conflating different people. So anyway, if he is still alive, I apologize, and I look forward to continuing buying from your website some other products that you already have. So let's go on. Yeah, they may have. I mean, especially as they got older, and after Gary was ousted from TSR, then perhaps they did. Yeah, I'm still perplexed by this because I thought Robert J. Coons passed, but maybe he hadn't. So again, I will see. Anyhow, let's move on. So I am going to do a breakdown of this, and I already had the Secrets of Blackmore video and the DVD of that, and that's awesome. You should definitely check that out as well. It gives you a nice history of the earliest parts of gaming from like 1971 through 74. So you really get a sense of it there, and that doesn't even take even though it's supporting Dave Arneson's perspective and such like that and his contributions, but that's not a direct attack on Gary Gygax either. I mean, they talk about the rift that occurred between them, but it didn't really say, and he was the bad guy for this. It made it seem like there was more of a mutual rift between the two parties. So so anyway, so that's the next thing that I'm going to start working on as well. I'm getting ready to do I'm going to start painting a new figure probably Monday or so, and start working on that. And uh, yeah, the the Blackmore movie really did open my eyes to a lot of the history of gaming in general, the history of the hobby that I wasn't aware of. And coming from, and you can actually hear the interviews of the players of the time, and just to see that, to peek into that window, and to see what it was like at the time, and to see the nature of the gaming table. It was like they had 16 players at the table. I mean, it's just amazing, the the transition from the wargaming table to the role-playing table was not as swift as you might think. You know what I'm saying? It's like they just, all they really did was everyone just became in control of one character at the table, but they still had all the armies and all of that other kind of stuff in there. I had asked, I wanted to get into like what actual dice mechanics they used. So that's what I'm hoping to do, is to actually interview one of those individuals at some point, and see what the actual dice mechanics that they use, because I only saw them using like D6s, and so they must have had some kind of a system using just the D6s for that. Yes, getting people to wait their turn, and getting people to go on their turn is the other thing. It's like sometimes you just get that dead silence. It's like, okay, and you know, I know people like Shoner kind of makes fun of it when you say, "Well, what do you do?" Sometimes the players just like they get locked up and they just sit there, and you gotta say, all right, well, what are you gonna do next, just to prompt them to move forward once in a while. Yeah, I try to keep them focused. I try to move them along as well. And my group is fairly large. It's 8 players, and we don't run into too much of the stagnations like I just mentioned, and we don't run too much into sidebars and those kinds of things either. They tend not to split the group. It's only happened on 1 or 2 occasions in all of these weeks that we've been playing. So I don't have very much problem with that either. And they're an experienced group of players, so they don't um, they don't fall into those amateur pitfall kind of things. And I know the only thing that I had to break them out of, and this was kind of in the earlier time, the earliest time of the campaign, probably around like week 4, or well, certainly week 4. I had to remind them. I was like, just take bold actions. I'll never punish you for taking bold actions. You're more likely to get punished from dilly dallying around, and creating more circumstances for wandering monsters, or just the whole dungeon, or whatever they're in, whatever environment they're in, is still moving forward. It's still doing things. I try to create that sense of alive. If they're in a lair, the lair is alive. There are people, creatures or whatever, moving about during their regular, daily daily routines, And so if you dilly-dally, you're going to really increase the chances of those kinds of encounters that they might otherwise avoid by pushing through and just being a little bit more bold. Yeah, so every once in a while, it's good to encourage your players. Listen, this is a heroic fantasy. Be heroic, be bold, and push forward. Don't worry so much. Even though it's AD&D first edition, if you lose your character, we're just gonna re-roll a character and introduce your new character. At some point, usually I do like one level below the rest of the party, and and they'll be reintroduced into the party at some point. Um, and Haven't had that happen, but I've had like 15 instances of where it was one roll away from a character dying. So it is a pretty amazing thing to have gone so long without a character death. But when I look at it, I see that, well, there were 15 times where the player was one roll away, and in one case, 1 point away on a roll from that character dying. And I haven't, I came from the school of, resurrection doesn't really exist. And so, when their characters die, their characters are going to remain, most likely remain dead, especially at this stage of the game. They're around 8th and 9th level at this point. So, I'm not looking to resurrect high level characters at this point. We probably only have about 8 to 12 more months to go on the entire campaign, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. The OGGM has a new vid up on damage control. Yes. Well, that's what the guy is doing. That's what he's doing. He's going around and he's doing damage control. He's there, and he's going on. They're making sure that nobody brings up his statement from Monday. I guarantee it. So he will not address that at all in the next couple of videos that he does do. Yep, if there's no hard penalties for bad events, there is no satisfaction in victory. Yeah, you can't have a heroic fantasy if there is no heroism, and you cannot have heroism if you don't have risk and true consequences for failure. And that's something that I've always had in my in my game sessions and in my campaigns, and even more importantly during long campaigns and everything, the consequences of inaction need to be real, and the consequences of bad actions need to be real as well. So and rolling invisible, rolling visibly in front of everybody is another big help in creating that culture around your table. Okay, so my current home game is running through. Yeah, so my party is currently, so it's 8 members, so it's larger than usual. Levels 8 through 9. They just started. There were 7 through 8 when they started it. Now they're 8 through 9 for the most part, and the module was originally written for levels 8 to 12. So as they keep on digging deeper into this adventure, they're going to start hitting some things that are going to be very, very challenging, even for such a large party as they have. I use some of the AD&D rules, such as if you take, if you take half your damage, half your hit points in a single strike, you have to make a system shock roll or you die. So that's something that my players are accustomed to, so they know that it's certainly a possibility. I have Hyperborea right behind me. You can see it if I lean this way. There are 2 orange books right there. And I have to start doing videos on taking a look at that system as well. But I'm glad to have backed that Kickstarter and have those 2, great books there. And looking, it's generally, it's not, General Nut, it started off with 12. It never launched with 12 though. We began the first session with 10. Then it dropped down to, I lost 3 players in 2 players in week 4 and picked up 3. So week 3, I lost 3 players and then, or 4 players. And then week 4, I picked up 3, brought it back up to, we were around 9 at that point. And then along the way, I lost 1 more, and we're at our steady 8 now. And we've been at 8 since, 8 or 9 since week 4. So it's been and like I said, it's week 78. So for 74 weeks, we've kept it together. In all of this time, we've only not played on 2 weeks during the during this past year and a half, or a little bit over a year and a half now. We missed 1 week in the summertime when I was on vacation, and we missed the week after the 1st of January. So the week after this new year, we missed that week, just couldn't get it together and come together on that. So, hey, if we only miss 1 session per every 6 months, I think that's going to be, pretty cool. And I anticipate it. I anticipate the campaign going for, I want to say, at least another 8 months. I kind of like thinking through and looking at, where I anticipate them to be around. And I kind of have an ending of the main campaign storyline that they've been functioning with. I haven't decided on what other kind of seeds I'll lay out there for them to do side quests and that kind of thing. That's usually very organic in my game. It comes up. Sometimes my players will take an interest in something that I didn't anticipate them taking an interest in, and then it becomes a whole other side quest kind of thing that they get involved with. I've had that happen 3 or 4 times now, where we've done these little side things, and then the main campaign keeps on going on. But when they return to it, it's like, oh crap, what? We just realized that, something is happening because we didn't engage it, at that time. So it's very, very important for your campaign world to be a living, breathing thing. It's got to keep on moving, and responds to their actions when they take actions, and responds to their inaction when they don't. And so that's, I think that's really important. And I think that was what kept it just being fresh and going forward. I don't think any of us have gotten tired with this campaign. I certainly haven't. And I think the only players that I've lost over all of these months now is, due to either working conditions, their job schedules changed. And one person, I think, just couldn't handle the number of players. It was a little bit too much, like a sensory overload. And that was early on. That was after like week 3, that person departed. And that it's been pretty long stretch, and an enjoyable one as well. So I'm going to actually leave it off on that point. So I thank everybody for popping in and leaving your comments. We usually have 7 players for our games, but have 4 others who are in theory a part of the campaign, but usually don't play. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of doing like rotational kind of things and just having a whole slew of players. And then if they make it, they make it. If they don't, they don't. But I don't find that for, at least for me, when I'm running Dungeons and Dragons, I don't find that that works as well. Um, I'm looking to do that with Vigilante City, all right, which is a superhero game, which you can run very episodic, right? At least in my opinion, you can run a game like that much more episodically than you can something that's, big epic adventure kind of thing where you want the continuity of the character group, the player party, more so than you necessarily need for a superheroes game. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for joining, everyone. And, I'll do these like, once a week, every Friday, maybe, from 11 o'clock to or 11:30 to 12:30ish or so. I have to actually leave for work in about 10 minutes. So you all have a good one. And I got a phone call at the same time. I don't recognize that number, so I'm not going to answer it. So yeah, some stories don't work well as with others do. Yep. And thanks a lot, Marcelo. Thanks for popping in. And if you hadn't subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. And like I said, always, feel free to leave your comments in there, and I will get back to some of those. And everyone have a great weekend. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. Have a good one, everyone.